The question is often kicked around whether or not the rapture is found in Matthew chapter 24. So is the rapture found in Matthew 24, or is only the second coming found in Matthew chapter 24? Stay tuned for an in-depth investigation of this question. Hi there, I'm Lee Brainerd. Welcome to Soothkeep and another edition of Prophecy in the Crucible. My mission is truth. Truth that God will own as truth at the judgment seat of Christ. Truth in our doctrine, our practice, and our discernment. So the question that we're addressing today is whether or not the rapture is in Matthew chapter 24. Stated in a more academic way, the question is the rapture found in the Olivet Discourse? Now, this is often framed as a debate between the scholars and those who are maybe not so academically inclined or don't have the academic formal training. They're a little bit more sloppy and loose in their handling of Scripture. The scholars say that the rapture is not found in Matthew 24. The loose and the sloppy say that, yes, the rapture is found in Matthew chapter 24. Well, who's right? There's no better way to answer this question than to actually go to the plain testimony of Scripture and let the plain testimony of Scripture answer the question for us. So let's do that. Well, let's start by reading Matthew chapter 24, verses 36 through 44. But of that day and hour no man knows, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah were, so also shall the coming of the Son of Man be. For as they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage in the day before the flood, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away, so also shall the coming of the Son of Man be. Then two shall be in the field, the one shall be taken and the other shall be left. Two women shall be grinding at the mill, the one shall be taken and the other shall be left. Watch therefore, for you do not know what hour your Lord is coming. But know this, that if the owner or the master of the house had known in what hour the thief was going to come, he would have watched and would not have suffered his house to be broken into. Therefore be ready, for in such an hour as you do not think the Son of Man is coming. Now, there are four observations that we can make on this passage. These are not observations you need a technical understanding of the Greek or a technical understanding of grammar to understand. These are observations that anyone with the literal English translation can observe and understand. First of all, in verse 36, we see, this day cannot be known. This is a plain statement of Scripture. You can't determine or calculate the date. It's not stated. There's no formula by which you can count to the date. There's no typology by which you can calculate the date. The second observation is found in verse 44, and that's that this day won't be expected. It says the Son of Man is coming at a time or in an hour which you don't expect. This implies that all the high watch theories which calculate rapture dates are barking up the wrong tree. They are looking at Jewish feast days and other Jewish days, and they're all going to prove wrong, because these are the days that many people are expecting. And it's not going to come on a day that people are expecting. Now, this isn't talking about on a day that nobody can guess, folks. I mean, if enough people guess, every day of the year is going to be guessed upon. And every day of the week is going to be guessed upon. And every hour of the day is going to be guessed upon. So somebody's going to guess it right. This is talking about you can't expect with actual calculatable expectations. You can't expect based on reasonable application of Scripture. You can't expect any particular day. Now, because you can't expect this day, it's coming on a day when nobody can expect it because there's nothing that points to any particular day to raise expectations. Because of this, we need to watch and be waiting every day. Folks, you've heard me say it dozens of times, and I'll say it again now. From here on out, indeed for the last few years, every day is a high watch day. Now, the third point is found in verses 37 through 39, and that is that it's going to be like the days of Noah. So we read, "But as the days of Noah were, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be." Now, before the flood, the world was going about their daily business. They were oblivious to the coming judgment. They were not preparing for coming judgment. They didn't believe in the coming judgment when Noah and his sons spoke about it. They just went about their eating and drinking, marrying and burying, marrying and giving in marriage. They just were going about their daily business, their farming and their agriculture and their construction and their buying and selling, just normal business. In the same way, prior to the coming of the Son of Man, the world is going to be going about their everyday business, just like they did before the days of Noah. They're going to be going about their business until, out of the blue, unexpected judgment falls upon them. They're not going to see this judgment coming. They're not expecting judgment to come. They don't believe that judgment is coming even when people tell them it's coming. They're not currently experiencing any kind of judgment. They're not currently experiencing anything that's outside of the relative normality for the past couple centuries. Nothing signals to them that anything is amiss. The fourth point is found in verse 43, that this day is going to come like a thief in the night. Now, if folks knew that a thief was coming for certain, they would be watching. If they knew what hour he's going to come, they would be watching at that particular hour. They would have been prepared, watching and waiting. But they don't know the time of his coming. In fact, they don't even know the fact of his coming. They don't believe that the thief is going to come. And so they are not watching. So we've got four things, folks, that are in this passage. One, you can't know the day. Two, that day won't be expected. It's going to be a day that's not expected. Three, it will be like the days of Noah. And four, it's like a thief in the night. Now let's compare these observations with the second coming. Because if we compare these observations with the second coming, we are going to observe that they absolutely do not fit the second coming. First of all, when the second coming happens, men will know the day and the hour. That's absolutely contrary to verse 36, which says they can't know the day and the hour. During the tribulation time, or during the 70th week, men will be able to count from the start of the 70th week, which is a signing of the covenant between the Antichrist and Israel in Daniel 9:27. They'll be able to count 7 years. They'll be able to count 3.5 years from the middle of the week when the Antichrist sits in the temple and declares himself God and requires men to worship him. So this is absolutely contrary. This coming of the Son of Man here is absolutely contrary to the second coming. Now, it's also contrary to the second point. It's contrary to men not expecting it. Because when the second coming happens, the whole world in general is going to be expecting the coming of the Lord from heaven. In fact, they are going to be gathering at the right time and at the right place to wait for the Lord to descend from heaven. They're basically setting up an ambush and lying in wait. So this is absolutely contrary to coming on a day that you don't expect. They expect his coming, and they expect the right day. Now, this is also contrary to the days of Noah. It's contrary to the relative normality that they were facing back then, prior to the flood. The world was going normal. So, think about the things that happened during the tribulation which absolutely forbid applying like the days of Noah to the end of the tribulation, to the second coming. First of all, the whole world will have spent 7 years getting battered. The fourth seal alone takes 1/4 of the world's population. When you throw in the sixth trumpet, which takes another 1/3 of the world's population that's remaining at that point, you're down to just these 2 visitations take half of the world's population. And there's a whole lot more visitations than that. On top of that, the oceans get turned to blood. The forests get burned up. The waters get poisoned. There's famine and disease and pestilence and wars ravaging the globe. So they're not in a time of relative normality. They're not in a time when they don't see judgment coming. They don't expect coming judgment. They don't believe judgment is coming. They are in a time when they have been experiencing serious judgment for 7 years. They know judgment is coming. They're trying to stop it because they're trying to stop the Messiah, who they don't believe is a Messiah. They're going to believe he's some godlike creature from another galaxy or from somewhere else in our galaxy. Now, the last point is that when the coming of the Son of Man comes, it's in this passage, it comes upon the world like a thief in the night. And this absolutely does not fit the second coming. Once again, it's contrary to verse 43. The whole world is watching for this time. They know the thief is coming. By the time you get to the end of the 70th week, the whole world knows the thief is coming. They know he's the thief that robbed the world of all the Christians. They know he's a thief that's robbed them of over half the population of the world. They know that he's the thief that's robbed them of all kinds of things that they had going on down here on earth that have been crushed to dust. They know he's a thief. They know he's coming. They don't want him to finish the job, and they're going to try and stop him from finishing the job. So they're at the right time in the right place. There's absolutely no relationship to a thief in the night at the second coming. So let's compare these 4 observations with the rapture prior to the tribulation. So the rapture corresponds perfectly with the idea that no man knows the day or the hour in verse 36, because the rapture date can't be calculated. Nobody knows the day or the hour of the rapture. It's imminent. We're in a situation where it can happen at any moment, can happen any day, can happen any week. It's coming. It's on the horizon. We don't know how near it is. We just know that it's near. Now, no sign points to the rapture. The signs only point in a generic way to the stage setting for the tribulation. And we know we're going to go up before the stage is fully set and the tribulation kicks off. But the rapture fits. No man knows the day nor the hour. It fits it hand in glove. That is the rapture. Now, the rapture also corresponds with the truth in verse 44 that the coming of the Son of Man is going to happen at a day and an hour that you do not expect. Now, if you can't know the day or the hour, then you can't expect any particular day and an hour. An expectation stands on objective grounds for expectation. Now, if there's no way to calculate the date for the rapture, and there's no theory that points to the right time, then the rapture is going to happen at a time when we don't expect, and we're not even able to expect. So the rapture fits on a day when you do not expect. Now, the rapture also corresponds with the concept of like the days of Noah in verses 37 through 39. The rapture is going to happen prior to the time of judgment. It's going to happen at a time when the world at large is not expecting judgment. They don't see any signs of coming judgment. They're not currently experiencing judgment. They don't believe in the coming judgment when preachers and friends and family tell them about the coming judgment. They're going about life in relative normality. They're going through the normal cycle of life. Nothing is significantly different from how it's been going on for the last 200-300 years. When they have wars, it's the same degree and category that they've had for the last few hundred years. When they have earthquakes and volcanoes, it's relatively the same as they've had for the past few hundred years. When they have famines and other pestilences and diseases, it's all like it's been for the last few hundred years. Nothing is out of the ordinary. The cycle of the world is going on the same. The wheels of the world are turning the same. They're going about their everyday business, eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, just like they have for centuries. That's what it's going to be like at the rapture. Now, the rapture, when that happens, that's the first sign of coming judgment. The rapture will be like the morning star. It's the first sign that judgment is just over the horizon. And from that time forth, the judgments are going to start dawning upon the world, increasing in degree, frequency, and in intensity until they build up to the second coming, which is the sunrise of the day of the Lord. Now, the rapture also corresponds with the thief in the night. Now, the world doesn't believe a thief is coming. They don't believe that judgment is coming. They don't believe that the Lord is going to come down here from heaven and take the world that they have created away from them. They don't believe it at all. They believe that this is just going to keep on going with a little change here, a little change there, sometimes better, sometimes worse, but it will keep on going. So they're not watching for the thief. And the thief is going to come. He's going to take all the believers out of the world. And then he's going to start bringing his judgments upon the world, which take things from the world. It takes unsaved people out of the world through the judgment of death. It takes the things that they have built out of the world by crushing them. It takes their institutions out of the world, piece by piece by piece by piece. The world is going to be caught off guard, and they are going to be robbed. Their freedom is going to be removed. Their life is going to be removed. The blessings of nature will be removed. So you see, the rapture fits all four. The rapture fits no man knows the day nor the hour. The rapture fits at an hour that you do not expect. The rapture fits as the days of Noah. It fits that relative normality, and it fits like a thief in the night. Now, the detractors are going to say, but context. They're going to claim that I have just presented a position that ignores the context. And they're going to point out that this passage, verses 36 to 44, starts with, but of that day and hour, no man knows. And they're going to say, see, we need to go to the verses before verse 36 and find out what it's talking about. And that will be the day and an hour. Well, that's reasonable. That's not unreasonable. That's how contextual investigation transpires. That's how it works. But what do they point to in the context? Well, they point to the preceding verse in Matthew 24:35, which mentions the passings of the heavens and the earth. And they say, see, it's talking about the day or hour that no man knows is the day the heavens and earth pass away. Well, this makes no sense at all. Because if that's talking about the heavens and earth passing away at the second coming, you can count to it from the start of the week or from the middle of the week. And if it happens at the end of the millennium, you can count the 1,000 years to the end of the millennium. So it doesn't fit. And sometimes they'll point to the previous verse, verse 34, and they'll say, it's speaking of the day that all these things are fulfilled. Well, the day that all these things are finally fulfilled is the second coming, so we're right back to the same point that we just addressed. It can't be referring to that day because people can know that day. They are going to expect that day. That day does not come like a thief in the night, and that day does not come when there's relative normality like there was before, immediately before the coming of the flood in the days of Noah. So the second coming just absolutely cannot be the day or hour that no man knows. So what are we supposed to be looking for in the context that's preceding verse 36 that gives us the hint or the suggestion of what day and hour he's talking about? We need to be looking for a day and an hour in the preceding context that's an unexpected day and an hour. We need to be looking for a day and an hour in the context that can't be known. So we can't be looking for something that's associated with when you see all these things. Because once you get into that time period of when you see all these things start to come to pass, when you're in that time period, you're in the tribulation, you're in the 7 years, you're in the counting period. So once you hit that point, you can count to the end and know the end, so it can't be referring to the second coming. It has to be referring to the front end of the coming of the Son of Man, the morning star aspect of the coming of the Son of Man. It can't be referring to the far end of the coming of the Son of Man, which is the second coming or the sunrise aspect. It can't be referring to that. So we need to be looking for that coming of the Son of Man that happens before all these things start to be fulfilled. It has to be before the prophecies about the events of the tribulation start coming true. And they come true in the tribulation. So the only coming of the Son of Man that fits is the rapture aspect of the coming of the Son of Man. The morning star aspect, which is going to happen before this day starts dawning on the world. The dawning of that day is the tribulation. So we're looking, the rapture does fit this, folks. The rapture is going to happen before all these things start to be fulfilled. So you take that phrase, when you see all these things start to be fulfilled, that's when this period starts. That's the judgment that's coming, that's parallel to the flood. So if we're talking about the days of Noah, Noah got in the ark a week before that came. So in a similar analogy, the coming of the Son of Man for the church, they're going to enter the ark of the rapture prior to this judgment falling on the earth. So it's got to be before all these things come to pass. This is, in other words, now the rapture happens before the birth pangs of the tribulation. The rapture happens before the floodwaters of the judgment comes. The rapture happens before all these things come to pass. In fact, it happens before the first thing of all these things starts to come to pass. And at that time, the world will not be expecting judgment. They will not be experiencing judgment. The wheels of the world are going to be turning normally, relative normality. So in conclusion, I trust that this has helped you to understand the section in Matthew 24, verses 36 through 44 better. I trust it has helped you to understand that yes, indeed, the rapture is found in Matthew chapter 24, and it's really not academic accuracy to claim that it's not found there. This isn't so much a matter of scholarship here, folks, as it is simply paying attention to the plain statements of Scripture and contemplating what those statements say and contemplating how they best fit the context. Well, and relate those statements to the second coming and to the rapture and see which one fits best. May the best fit prevail. Eyes wide open, brain engaged, heart on fire. We'll see you next time.